This is Shawn Crystal. Catch the Inkpulp podcast on Pharcyde TV Wednesdays at noon Pacific time, 3 o'clock Eastern time. Come hang. Peace. This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip-hop, life. Welcome to the Inkpulp podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Crystal, Shawn C. I'm going to stop there because I almost went down a rabbit hole, some awful shit. You would have clowned on me so much. Today, on my podcast, I have Adisa from the Bishop Chronicles. He's also on the Pharcyde Network. I met him through DJ Mike Realm and Booty Brown, and we've spoken a few times through text and through the phone, and I think we're kind of on the same wavelength. I'm going to actually record with him tomorrow. I'm recording this intro ahead of time because I've got a story to tell. Listen up, I got a story to tell. So, and I think it's going to tie into what Adisa and I will probably talk about, because he is a big practitioner of yoga, meditation. He practices martial arts and chess, but I think there's some overlap in thinking and philosophies and ways we try to live our life, and yoga being one of them. So that's what my story is about. I first started doing yoga. When I really first started, was probably almost 18 years ago. And I liked it from the jump. My wife got me, I think it was for Hanukkah one year, I think it was 4 classes at a hot yoga studio. And I went and did them and loved them. And then I joined a local gym that had some yoga classes, and I loved it. And for probably a solid year, it was the only exercise I did. And then we moved up to a much more northern suburb of Atlanta, and it was an area that is much more developed now, and was pretty developed when we moved up there. And the only gym in the vicinity, because I think it's important to take care of yourself, was LA Fitness. And went and saw it. It's a nice gym, nice facility, and they did have yoga classes. And so when we moved up there, I tried the yoga classes. There was only a couple, and I didn't like them. They weren't what I had come to not just appreciate, but it wasn't offering me what I had come to really thirst from a yoga practice. And what I mean by that is I was really into this mind-body-soul connection, and how I had spent my entire life working on my physical body and not my mind. And my mind was much weaker. So I could do all these poses, but my mind was reeling in agony from them. So, and also the classes were in a giant gymnasium, and it was never heated. I think heat is essential. Why? Because it purifies you. You sweat a lot and you cleanse yourself. The heat makes your muscles more limber. And there's a meditative quality to dealing with extreme temperatures while practicing. So that was part of it. And there was a great teacher there, not at the LA Fitness by me, but one that was close to me, just not as close. And I loved her class. And their studio was a little smaller, and it was very crowded, so it did feel warmer. And that was on Sundays. But very quickly, my life just got busy, not an excuse, but I didn't love it, so there's nothing really calling me to it. So I just used the gym as a gym, and I stopped yoga for a few years. And then when I was teaching college, there was a college gym, and they hired a woman to come in and offer yoga classes. So I went in, and she was amazing. She was everything I'd come to love. And I convinced some of my teacher friends who were active to come with me. We had a great time, and I think it was like a Thursday evening class, and I scheduled my classes around it so I could always go, and we went. And for a good year, we practiced with her and loved it. And I had never had a good mat. I had got like... Sorry. It's the day after Thanksgiving. I ate so much crap yesterday, and I drank like a bottle of wine, and I had a healthy dose edible. I got up early this morning, and I went for a run, and I went farther than I normally go because I didn't want to run, and I said, now that you've said that, guess what, Shawn? You're going harder today. So I'm just fucking tired. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Back to the story. Rewind. So I'd never had a good yoga mat. I got a $15 one when I started, and I was like, oh, this is what a yoga mat is. I didn't know what the difference was. And this is a while ago. You know, now there's a whole market for yoga mats. This is before that. And my teacher had this red mat, and it had these like thin like strands of plastic running through them. So it gave it a lot of strength, a lot of muscle. And it was made of a material. Oh, God damn, taking that motherfucker. I will after this. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna do this. And it was non-stick. I mean, it was sticky. Like, I didn't slip around on it when I got sweaty. And I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I slipped around on my mat quite a bit, but I was like, that's just what yoga is. So, and this, they were like $80, and I was like, oh man, I remember telling her, like, I'd love to get one. I need to get one. It's a bit of a cost, but I need to make it happen. So, next week I come in, and she gives me one. Same mat as hers, Jade yoga mat. And that changed everything. Now I had a really good mat. And I practiced on that mat for a while. She stopped teaching there around the time a Lifetime Fitness opened up by my house. And we went and toured that. And Lifetime is just, I mean, it's the most luxurious. I'm sure, like, I know Equinox is the most luxurious, but Lifetime, it's ridiculous how luxurious it is. It's insane. It's ridiculous. But they had a yoga studio in Lifetime. It was a room just for practicing yoga with a temperature-controlled environment so they could have hot yoga. And I was excited. I was like, I'm going to get back to yoga on a more regular basis than once a week. So I went into my first class, and this teacher walks in. And I recognized her immediately. She was the teacher from LA Fitness years before that I liked. And I took my first class with her. And I had a blast. And I had this good yoga mat. I had a great practice. And that was a solid, almost a decade ago probably, maybe 8-10 years ago. And I still take classes with her regularly. She's been a part of my life for a very long time. And that's Pam. I also took other yoga classes, and I met another very important figure in my yoga practice, Megan. And Megan taught a yoga class like I had never seen, I'd never taken. It was power yoga, but it was very focused on breath and mind, body, soul connection. And I'd never seen a person be able to use their own energy to help you reach down into yourself to find strength and in your mind, in your body, you just didn't know you had. I just remember, like, during the hardest, because the classes are kind of like, you warm up, they get harder, harder, harder. You hit a peak at about 75% through the class, like 45 minutes, and then you drop down to a surrender portion of your practice, and then you meditate. And I remember as she's getting to the peak, I mean, you're working like crazy. You're sweating. You've exerted all your energy at this point. And she would, like, crouch down in the middle of the room. And she would say these motivational things, but it wasn't what she was saying. It was like she was like this bomb. She would crouch down. I remember she'd do this with her hands, like getting you to hold, and she would just, like, through the room. And she was fucking amazing, life changer. And I've had a bunch of great yoga teachers since then, and I miss them all. I don't, right now I've got a couple, and they're really great, but I miss Nicole, I miss Allison. But let me rewind. I'm getting way off track. Way off track. This is about the mat. So after I started getting back into yoga on a regular basis with these teachers in a hot studio, I started, like, I'm going to get it. It was hot. I was slipping around a lot, sweating you sweat a ton. And I drink a lot of water, so I was just cleansing my body out. And I was like, I need a better mat, one that won't slip. I tried a towel top mat. I tried all these mats, and I hate Lululemon. I fucking hate Lululemon. They're a corporation. They are everything yoga isn't is what Lululemon is, and I hate it. And I just avoided it. And then I remember I tried. My teacher Nicole had a Lululemon mat. And I forgot my mat one day, and she was like, you can use mine. So I used it, and god damn if that shit didn't just lock you in. There was no slipping or sliding with that. So fuck, I got a Lululemon mat, and I just stuck with Lululemon mats from then on. And then I was just always kind of open to an alternative. And then I discovered cork mats. So I got a cork mat. Well, I was slipping around on that one. What happened was my Lululemon mat was wearing out, so I was starting to slip on it. And this is after a few years. I mean, it lasts. And that was like my third or fourth one at the time. So I was like, let me try a cork mat. It'll get me away from Lululemon because people swore by them. But I try to go up into a bridge, and I'm slipping again. And that's the big problem, is my bridge. Look, I'm not great at bridge. I can get up into it. I'm doing pretty good. It's very hard for me. It exerts a lot of energy. But I'm not, like, really flexible to, like, I can't grab my ankles and shit like that. So I really rely on the stick of the mat a lot to push me up. And I got a cork mat. It was all cork. I slipped. That company, I liked them. They made their mats from recyclable materials, cork, recycled tires, or what the bottom rubber is made of. And then I did a little research. I was like, oh, I got the travel mats. Really light, really easy to travel with. That's a good mat. So then I moved on to... They had a different mat which had flecks of the rubber tire and the cork. I was like, ooh, that's pretty cool. Let me try that. I got that. Then I had a really sweaty class, and guess what? I slipped. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to go back to Lululemon. Around this time, we were taking a family vacation, and we go to Destin, Florida every year. We try to. And one of the things I enjoy doing there is there's a beach yoga class. And I've been taking this woman. We talked this year. I've been going to her for probably 10 years. So, it's just something about being on the sand, like right by the break, staring out into the ocean. It's just such a calming, centering way to do yoga. So when I travel and I go to the beach, I bring my jade mat, the mat, the first good mat I have. I've just held on to it, and I bring that to me because I know it can get all sandy. It's old. I don't care. So, you know, the last few times I went down there, I forgot my mat, and I had to buy a cheap one to get me through the week. But this time I remembered that jade mat, so I bought it, and I had a really calming practice. Yoga for me had become very difficult, very strenuous, very painful. I was in a lot of pain on a daily basis, just sore, stiff muscles, achy joints, and I knew, like, I just had a feeling I was just pushing myself too hard, and I'm getting older, so I don't want to admit that to myself. I mean, that's a hard thing to do, to slow down and back off, because you're getting older and your body isn't capable of what it used to be capable of. And there's a lot of ego in that. And so, when COVID hit, I started doing some yoga in my studio because the gym was closed, and I surrendered to it a lot. But I wasn't in a classroom, I wasn't with a teacher, but I took it easier, and the soreness was not nearly as apparent. And I had a great class at the beach, and I said to myself, I'm on vacation, I'm going to check my ego entirely. And so I didn't push myself to 110% in every pose. And I surrendered to, I don't want to say my limitations, I took it easier on myself, and by doing that, what I was doing by pushing myself was I was more interested in my body and what it was getting out of that. And by doing that, yoga was like very constricting. Like everything was like, and it wasn't cleansing my mind, wasn't strengthening my mind. It was just, it had become all physical. So by backing off on the beach, I found a calm, and I remember walking from the beach back to my car every time, like my body felt loose and open instead of stiff and achy. My mind was at total peace, and I'm saying the beach is just the best to do yoga at. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I was back on that mat. What did that mean? I was on my first mat, and what it meant to me was I was getting back to the root of my practice, when I fell in love with it. And when I didn't have an ego because I'd been doing it for so long, and was worried, like, am I looking like I've been doing it for long in front of this whole class? And so when I got back home, I checked that last cork mat, put that in the closet with my mat museum, and I started taking that jade back to class, and I backed off myself a lot. And I found I was strengthening my mind better and not damaging my body by doing so. And getting back on that mat brought me back to a place I needed to be reminded of. And I think that's something that I'm really thinking about in life. Like right now, I'm in this phase where I'm really getting back to the roots of myself, in my art, in my yoga practice, in my daily joy. I was a very happy person until adulthood, and I had that like hardness. Just being an adult, it's kind of hard, and then having kids, and went through that depression and all that. So that mat just took me back to a place, and now I'm applying that all over my life. My art, I'm getting back to my roots. I'm bringing graffiti back into it. I'm now working on hip-hop projects with, like, the Pharcyde, and like, I've always loved hip-hop, but I used to just draw, like, I was a hip-hop artist, and then, like, life happened, and I was a college professor and a comic book artist, but I still listened to hip-hop, but it was like, here was my artwork and here was my hip-hop, and they were just not together anymore when they used to be kind of one. So I'm getting back to that. I want to get into galleries. I got all kinds of shit I'm doing. I'm messing with graffiti again. And so this one practice of sitting on a beach on this old yoga mat reminded me of so many things and taught me a lot about myself. So now I'm just exploring that on my own. And I'm telling you this story because I'm wondering if you could benefit from the same thing. I'll probably bring this up when talking to Adisa, maybe. And maybe the podcast will talk about this too. I don't know. But I feel good. I feel charged and energized and excited again. I haven't felt that in a long time. So enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening to my little story. Like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Follow me at Inkpulp across all social media. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I got a TikTok page. I still haven't found how I'm going to use that. I don't know. I'm figuring it out. Anyways, thank you for your time. Thank you for being involved in whatever way you're involved in. And enjoy. Peace.
Yeah.
We're starting good. All right, cool. We're going. All right, so you asked me if I ever heard of the Skinny Boys, and I said no.
Yeah, the Skinny Boys, to me, were one of the hardest rap groups of their times, which would have been the late 80s. And they were definitely, their beatbox was, in my opinion, the best beatbox of all time. So, unfortunately, they had the name the Skinny Boys, and I think that actually ruined them. Like, if they would have been called anything else but that, it would have worked. But because they went for the Skinny Boys, I think, like, mentally, people just gimmicked them. But, like
a play on the Fat Boys.
Yeah, dude, they were devastating. They had a song called, I think one was just called Jock Box, but the one that was like the two most devastating was Rip the Cut, bro. Rip the Cut.
Yeah.
Devastating.
All right,
and there's another one. There's another one that I don't remember, but it's live. It's alive, like they're on stage and the crowd is going bonkers. And it's like, it encapsulates everything that made that era of hip hop dope. You know what I mean? But I heard Shaquille O'Neal talking on Gilly's podcast, and him and Wallow were going back and forth, testing each other on old school hip hop. And Shaquille O'Neal used the Skinny Boys as a trick question.
Shit.
It was pretty dope, dude.
Were they Bay Area boys?
Nah, they were like, I think they were from Connecticut or something.
Oh shit! I gotta
dude. Rip the Cut will still tear a party apart. And that live song, I don't remember what it's called, but it's on their first album. It's ridiculous.
I'll check it. Look, I will put my hip hop knowledge against just about anyone until I started listening to your podcast and talking to you.
That's hilarious. Cheers, my good man. Thank you. I try. I'm just a nerd. It's not really like...
I am too. I thought I went deep, but I think I'm going to find out today I don't go nearly as deep as you.
I think you do. You know what it is? We all have our areas of strength, right? And like where we really know what we know, and we saw what we saw. So no one can take that from you. You know what I mean? Like I just happened to get in really early on a high level in terms of what I was able to see. And a lot of what I was able to see wasn't my plan. It's just like, this guy's like, hey, you want to come to this guy's house and make a beat? And I'm like, sure. And it's DJ Qbert. But DJ Qbert is no one at that time. You know what I mean? He's just a guy in San Francisco, and we're trying to make a track.
You're like the Forrest Gump of hip hop.
Yeah, that's what my boy told me. He goes, it's really weird, man. He's like, there's pictures of you with Eazy-E, and there's pictures of you with Tupac. Then you're hanging out with Wu-Tang Clan. He goes, that's weird. He's like, you're Forrest Gump. That's my boy Kamal. Shout out to Kamal. He said that, and you said that. So it must be becoming true.
That speaks to your hustle a bit too, though.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? I loved hip hop from somewhere deep within my core of my soul to a point where I would just risk my life to see what it took to make it. And when I say make it, I don't mean be famous. I mean make the art.
Right. I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, there's a guy named Qbert. I'm going to his house. right? Somebody be like, yo, there's a house party tonight in Hunters Point. Boy, Hunters Point, you will get clapped right now in the area called Hunters Point in San Francisco. Violent crime is up 40% right now. Okay, seriously, people are getting killed. It is hella crazy, but it was just as crazy to me in the 80s. And I would go to house parties looking like Urkel, bro, and like no one would mess with me, no one would jack me, no one would even question me. Like I never even had a bad experience. You know what I mean? Like I never had fools like run up on me and be like, "What's up, fool? Come up off that chain. Where that jacket at? Give me the shoes." That never happened. But I think that's because I know this is gonna sound way too Master Shifu-ish or Yoda based, but I think that my intention was so pure, I was invisible to other people.
I believe
you know
that.
What I mean?
I think people see that in you. I think people see that. Like I've had my experiences too, where I think people just read that energy of what you're looking for.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so I was in the crazy clubs. People getting robbed and shot. I'm just like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And then like I'm to the left and it's good. Sometimes like at a very young age. So here's an example. When I was 13, when I was 12, I learned about DJing. On my 13th birthday, my parents bought me a mixer and a turntable because we already had another turntable. Mm-hmm. My father was into like big stereo stuff, so that wasn't hard. But my father had taken me to see Beach Street, and then so he knew how to scratch. Amazing. Yeah, so he knew how to scratch from observation because of the kind of stereo guy that he was. So my dad showed me how to scratch. My dad.
Oh, shit, that's amazing.
Shout out to Pops. DJ Frankie Fresh in the flesh.
Beach Street was the movie that cemented hip hop in my soul.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that was a no joke flick. So I went to school and there was this guy, this white kid. His name was Mark Spurlock, and he had a Walkman on. It was a brand new technology at the time.
Yeah.
And I was in Mr. Kong's class, and I was like, "Hey, what are you listening to?" And he was like, "You don't know anything about this." And I was like, "But what are you listening to?" He was like, "All right, listen." And it was some rap shit. And I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "That's whatever." I was like, "What do you know about hip hop?" He was like, "What do you know about hip hop?" I was like, "First of all, not a lot. I'm trying to figure it out." He was like, and so he was like, I was like, "I've seen two turntables." He was like, "Do you know what a mixer is?" He was testing me. And I was like, I passed enough. So he was like, "I have all that equipment at my house. Come by." So I went to his house and he became my mentor. So that's when I went back to my parents. I was like, actually now I don't remember whether I had the turntables. Yeah. I knew what the scratching was, but me and him didn't really know each other like that. So then once it was like he was, when you ever see the Get Down, right?
Yeah.
So he was like my Grandmaster Flash. I would go to his house. We'd sit in his room. He was like, "All right, these are the records. These are where I buy them. This is how it works. This is how you use the fader, or you could use it like that." And then we would just be in his house forever, man. So it was me, him, and this dude named Ravi. We were like a quiet crew. So what happens is we were actually devastating for our time, like not even like being silly. We were nerds, so we were devastating. So I made a mixtape, gave it to my friend, and there was a bunch of dudes at my school. And they were like the jock, cool guy, thuggish type dudes. Yeah. And they were playing a mixtape. And a friend of mine walked by and he was like, "Oh, my boy's tape will destroy. You guys are trash." And they were like, "What?" And he was like, "Who's better than us?" And he pointed to me. And they started laughing. And they were like, "Nah, he's not." He goes, "Yo, my mixtape's at home. He will kill you." So then they were like, one of the dudes called me. He was like, "Hey, what's up, fool?" His name was Joe. I was like, "What's up?" And he was like, "I heard you scratch." And I just looked at him and like, I just felt like a samurai, like my swords were on my hip. And I was like, "Yeah, like whatever, bro." You know what I mean? Like in any other situation, I would have been scared, but he was talking about scratching. "I will kill you." I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You want to battle?" And I said, "Sure." With like, not even hesitating. And then he was like, "For equipment." And now I had to pause because it wasn't that I didn't think I could beat him. I knew I could beat him, but I couldn't enforce the taking of the equipment. I was like, if you beat them, they're going to kick your ass and take your shit. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. So then I told my boy, I said, let me think about it. And then I talked to the other homies and they were like, nah, they're just going to beat us up and take our shit. So I was like, whatever. In the meantime, my friend Jamie took his mixtape to school or something and they heard it. And they were like, oh, he is better than us, actually. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is after high school one day, I'm chilling at the bus stop and the main dude, Joe, he was in the streets. And I was at the bus stop and he pulls up on me bumping something crazy. And he knew that I knew Eazy-E though at that time because I had written about Eazy in the school paper. So he knew.
Yeah, all right. So back up. This is what I want to. So you started working in hip hop journalism at a young age?
17.
And
1987.
Were you freelance writing or were
no? Nothing existed. Yourself? Nothing existed. Okay. So what happened was, I'm a nerd. My father raised me to love like African history and history in general, right? I knew a lot about Egyptology at a young age. Dating myself heavily, I went to the Tutankhamun museum tours in San Francisco and in New Orleans. I knew a lot. So when I fell in love with hip hop, I was like, I have to know everything. Like that's just kind of like how my brain works. So fast forward back to high school, I was a heavy binge drinker. To the point where sometimes like they had this thing. If you went to Oceana High School, you remember this thing called, what do they call it? They call it the dark locker. It was like a locker that anybody could use and put anything in. Right. And only the kids really knew about it. Right. And so I kept Brass Monkey in there. And so I would go to school, empty out. I would get a thing of juice in the morning, empty it out, fill it up with Brass Monkey, and I would sip Brass Monkey through the day. And then I'd go home. You know what I mean? And by the time I got home, the alcohol wouldn't be on my breath. You know what I mean? Like, you know. Right. And so I would do that during the week. And on the weekends, it was 40 ounces and more Brass Monkey, whatever. And so why am I telling you this? Oh, because it made me like not graduate high school. And so what happened is my counselor, Mr. King, was like, he calls me in his office one day and he's like, what's going on with your school right now? Are you really trying to go to college? He was a black dude, but he had a really strange voice that people laughed at all the time, but he was freaking brilliant. She's like, hey man, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? What's going on with your school right now? He talked like that. And then I was like, he was like, aren't you trying to go to college, man? You got to go to college. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying to go to college. He was like, what college you want to go to? And I was like, I'm trying to go to Hillman, sir. So Hillman is not a real college. Hillman is a college on television that's from the Cosby spinoff, A Different World. Yes. I was just trying to get a hold of Jasmine Guy. That was my goal. Or Marissa Tomei. Either one of them would have done. I just wanted to get there. And he fell out almost out of his chair when I said Hillman. He was like, what? He was like, that's not even a real school, boy. Like he was like, so he was like, look, he goes, look, the reason I called you into my office is because you're failing everything. But English, you have an A in English. Everything else you're failing. And I was like, I was proud of my English skills. So I was like, yes, I am an English dude. So then he was like, so I want you to write something for the Oceana Foghorn. And I was like, okay. But we were known, Oceana is in Pacifica, California, by the beach, very 90210-ish, to be frank with you. It's everything that people thought a California high school should be. You know, it's 2 blocks from the beach, you know what I'm saying? Surfers, whatever.
This is like Bay Area, right?
Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yes. So he's like, I want you to write. So we were the Oceana Sharks. We had a beast-ass wrestling team. Rest in peace. Coach Gray. He was like, our wrestling team was one of the best in the nation for years because of Coach Gray. And we also had a good swim team. And we also had a good football team. So it was like, I want you to write something. And I was like, I don't care about swimming, football, or wrestling. So we have come to an impasse. And he was like, well, so what you want to write about? I was like, I want to write about hip hop. He was like, well, go ahead. Because he was just like, do something with your life. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's kind of, it's sad to say, but that's kind of dead right now. The teachers seeing potential and nurturing it, even in a student who might not be performing well.
Right. I mean, because I was not performing well. And the other problem, like, I don't know how it is where you're at, but I'm noticing that counselors don't exist as much anymore.
Right.
Like over the last 10 years, counselors come up out of schools, and really the counselor's job is to just funnel the kids out, not to cultivate them.
That's the whole academic experience.
You see what I'm saying? They're just like, keep going forward, keep going forward, keep going forward. Okay, now you're on your own. You know what I mean? But it's not a cultivation. But he thought I could be a journalist. So what he saw in me, I didn't see in myself. Well, at that particular weekend, I had bought Boys in the Hood, and I had bought My Uzi Weighs a Ton the same weekend.
Oh, shit.
Those two records had profound impact on my brain and how I saw blackness. Okay. On one side of the coin, I saw Eazy-E as like, I saw like black oppression under one umbrella. On one side of the umbrella, you have Public Enemy, who's like, we got to stick together. You know what I mean? We can, we can rise up, Eazy-E side of the coin was everybody's for themselves and I'm going to get mine.
Right.
That's how I interpreted it. Even then.
Wow.
But Boys in the Hood had just come out. Like the dude opened the box. I was like, what do you got for hip hop? Because you got to understand, hip hop was not big. You had to go to special stores. Right. These days a kid can walk in looking like Urkel and come out looking like 50 Cent just by visiting one store. Right. In those days, you got the hat from someplace, you got the jacket from someplace, the laces from someplace, the shoes from someplace, and you needed to know people, and you could get mopped, straight up mopped, going to these places to try to, you know what I mean? Like if you weren't from those areas. So what ends up happening is I went home and I called Eazy-E. I called Ruthless Records, and I was like, they were like, oh, Ruthless? And I was like, yeah, hi. I'm a big time writer from the Bay Area, and I just wanted to talk to Eazy-E because I think he's got a hit on his hands. And they were like, the lady was like, well, he's not in right now. And I was like, cool, I'm just going to leave my number. Could you have him give me a call, please? Thank you. And then I went to play basketball. When I came back, my mom was like, a boy named Eric called you from Los Angeles. I was like, what? So I go, I look at the number, and it was like a 213. You know what I'm saying? I was like, no. So I'm like, all right, hold on. Relax. And he's like, hello? It was his home number.
Oh, shit.
His home number. Wow. And I was like, hey, I would like to interview you, blah, blah. He was like, sure. So my mom used to be a legal secretary.
Yeah.
So she had like equipment that you could record conversations with.
Oh, shit.
So I was able to record an interview with this dude, right? And I couldn't fucking believe it, first of all.
That's amazing.
But what happens is we became cool, right? We become cool. So then we start talking like every week. So he's like, hey, man, what's up? You know what I mean? And like, it's early. So like, I don't even know what this dude looks like. He doesn't even know what I look like. But we become cool. However, he does know that I'm a nerd. You know what I mean? He knows that like I'm not really in the streets. Because like one day he called me and he was like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, chilling. What are you doing? He was like, oh, man, I'm at the hospital. I was like, oh, somebody got shot? What's up? Was it Dre? Was it Yella? Who? Cube? And he was like, nah, man. He's like, I just had a baby. I was like, oh, for real? Congratulations, man. That's cool. Eric Jr.? He was like, no, man. Derek. I said, okay, Derek. Very cool. All right. So Eric's already here, I guess. I was like, you and your wife must be really happy. And he just chuckled and he goes, I'm not married, man. And I was like, oh, okay. And I felt bad for him, right? Like, oh, this poor guy, he's not married, right? And then I was like, well, you got Eric and Derek. I was like, how many kids do you have? And he was like, 6. I said, from the same woman? And he chuckled. He's like, no, from several women. And I was like, like my nerdy brain, right? I grew up with both parents in the suburbs. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, several women, no marriage. right? Like that seems like a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so like we had this weird friendship. And so eventually I get the thing done, and he's like, one day he calls me, he's like, oh man, I meant to ask you. He's like, I was talking with my manager, Jerry, and he wanted me to ask you, do you write for the San Francisco Chronicle or the Examiner? Those were the only two main publications in the Bay. So now I know the jig is up. I'm kind of screwed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I sit there for a few seconds quiet, and I'm like, fuck, dude, your shit's fucked. This dude's gonna hate your shit. You wasted his time. Fuck. So I was like, all right, dude, here's the truth. I'm in high school, and I'm writing for the Oceana Foghorn. You know what I'm saying? I hope you don't hate me. I just really love your shit, and if you hate me, I don't blame you, bro. I love what you do, man. That's it.
Yeah.
And so he sat there for a few seconds, and then he started laughing. He was like, man, I don't care. Run that shit. He was like, nobody writes about us. We have no press. Run the story. And I was like, for real? He was like, yeah, man, I'm happy. So we stayed cool. And awesome. that was how that started. But what it did was it started me on a journey that I never left. And the truth of the matter is that I owe Dr. King my life, and I owe my life to Eazy-E, because Dr. King saw me. He saw in me a journalist when I just saw a drunk teen who didn't care about nothing. And Eazy-E gave me the shot to be what Mr. King saw, even though I called him
right.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm indebted to those dudes forever. Unfortunately, Mr. King passed away I think this year. It might have been last year.
Oh, wow.
And I never got to talk to him. I was trying to track him down because I wrote about him in my book, Bobby Bruce in the Bronx: The Secrets of Hip Hop Chess, available for free at hiphopchess.blogspot.com. You can download the PDF. You don't even have to give me any information. It's yours. And I have a picture of me and Easy, but you can look that up online. But it's that picture, and then it's a picture of Mr. King. And I was trying to get him a copy and say thank you. I tracked it turned out one of the kids that I used to mentor knew Mr. King's grandson and went to college with him.
Oh, shit.
And then he was like, hey, man. He was like, so then he kind of helped me get a hold of him. I reached out to him a couple times on Facebook, but Mr. King didn't really use Facebook, and then he died. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
But that began my life as a journalist in 1987. And then I decided I was just going to write about hip-hop anyway. So I would write fake articles for no publication because no one wrote about hip-hop. It was weird. So I would just write fake articles, I would be like, this is important to me, and I'd write about.
Was this pre-internet?
Yes. I mean, it's 87.
Yeah. So you're just, you've got nowhere to put those out.
Right. So one of the first articles I wrote on my own, I put a publication together. My friend's dad had this crazy machine that could make a fake magazine. And we made a fake magazine. And what the cover story was, Ice Cube, before he was in NWA, he was in a group called CIA, Crew in Action. And they put a song out called My Posse, which I loved. What was the other one? Anyway, if you look up CIA, My Posse, that shit's hard. It was a dope track. But it was like Ice Cube was like the Beastie Boys, like the way that he rapped. He just screamed, Ice Cube, get busy, my girls get, it was this whole thing. Yeah. So anyway, I wrote this whole thing asking the question, now that Ice Cube was working with NWA, was CIA over? You know what I mean? And then I would write about other stuff. And I mean, these weren't even for real publication. We were just, me and my boy George, we made 2 issues of this thing that wasn't even a real magazine, writing about West Coast hip hop. So I would write about other random records that were out, do record reviews, but they never went anywhere because there was nowhere to publish them, and I didn't sell it. So,
at some point, you start finding homes for your writings.
Yeah. So what happens is, I around 90? Around 1990, I also used to rap back in the day, and I was in a group called One Nation. So One Nation was a rap group of many different artists. So it was me, a guy at the time named 12 Gauge, who changed his name to AK Black. He was from Hunters Point, Double Rock. Nim and H2O, they had a group called FM20, and they were they were backed up by DJ Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, and DJ Apollo.
Oh shit. Okay.
And my DJ was DJ Disc, DISK, and he these were like murderous turntablists. I mean, like, there's no other word for them. Like, straight up, these dudes were the best DJs on the planet at the time, and probably still, in my opinion. Not kidding. I'll put them up against anybody. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go against these dudes, you could do it. The Bay Area had a really unique group of turntablists, and Qbert, Mike. You know, Mike, for a while, he lived down the street from me. You know what I'm saying? And like, he went to Thornton because he didn't do very good in school either. So he went to Thornton, which was a school for, like, you know, like, I don't remember what they called the schools back then, but it wasn't a good school to go to. Anyway, you know, so it was me, my FM20, AK Black, Joe was in my crew. So it was me, Joe, and a guy named Dion D Live, and Joe was Jay Fresh. And then there were some others, but we were like a crew of crews. You see what I'm saying? And we were called One Nation. Right. So there was a girl who lived down the street from me who moved down from Santa Rosa. And when her parents would leave, she would throw these crazy house parties. And I met Ray Love there. Ray Love was down with Tupac. And he was like, "You remind me of my boy Tupac," because I was hella silly. And Tupac was very funny. And I was like, "No kidding." And he was like, "Yeah." And so he was like, "We should hang out." It was me, Ray Love, and DJ Dizzy. They were all part of One Nation. So it was kind of like we both have One Nation crews, like, who was the real One Nation? But rather than have beef, we just thought it was funny, and like, we should find a way to do a show together, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
So that goes on for like a year of just seeing them at the house parties. We talking hip hop shit, whatever. And then in the meantime, Public Enemy starts having a big impact on me. I meet Chuck D when I was 19.
How did you meet Chuck D?
So AK Black was going to San Francisco State. Chuck D was speaking there, and he was like, "Yo, I got the hookup. We can stay after the talk. So when everyone leaves, stay." So it was like me, DJ Disc, AK Black, FM20. I don't think Qbert was there. But anyway, after Chuck's talk, everybody leaves, and we stayed put, and we got to meet Chuck. So we met Chuck, and there was a guy standing in front of me with a bunch of magazines hanging out of a bag, and it was The Source.
Oh shit.
And The Source was just a rumor. That's not a rumor. It was hard to find. Like, I only knew one person who had a copy of The Source, and that was Dan the Automator. I went to his house.
So you knew Dan the Automator?
Yeah. Damn, so dude. My friend was Dan the Automator's dancer. Dan would never remember me even being there. Like, I was completely insignificant. I would just go with my friend's house to my friend's house and sit in Dan's basement while he would make beats, and just, that was it. I was just watching. And so this was the first time I had seen The Source outside of Dan's house. And I tapped the dude on the shoulder. I was like, hey. I said, "Where did you get those magazines?" Because he had lots of them. You know what I mean? Like 15 of them in this bag. And he was like, excuse me. He was like, "Oh, I write for The Source. My name is James." His name was James Bernard. So in between this time,
I know that name.
Ray Love had introduced me to Tupac at a Digital Underground's record release party. When Digital Underground released the Sex Packets album, they had a record release party that was the craziest party of my life till this day.
Oh, I
have nothing to compare that party to. Nothing. And anybody from the Bay who went, you already know. It was crazy. And Tupac, I went early. I worked at the I worked at Tower Records, and my manager knew I was trying to go. Was like, "Hey, don't take off. You gotta work." And I was like, "Exactly." Left. So then I went early, and Ray was in there, and he was like, "Hey, Ray." He was like, I was like, "What's up, fool?" He's like, "What's up, man?" So then he was like, "This is my friend Tupac I was telling you about." And he was like, "What's up, man? My name is Tupac." I was like, "What's up?" And somebody was like, "Hey, let's take a picture." And so I took a picture with him at that time. He put his arm around me, we was chilling. But I had literally known him for 10 seconds at that time. It was literally 10 seconds. It was like shake hands. Somebody said, "Let's take a picture." We took it. Right. And in that political time on that same campus, I met Kilu Nyasha. Kilu was one of the first women in the Black Panther Party, and she became my political science teacher. I was doing a rap show at SF State. She started asking me about my lyrics, and she was like, "Well, I could teach you about Black Power if you want to learn." So she was wheelchair bound, and I would go to her house on Broadway. She would have a small group of people, and she would talk about Black Power, the Panthers, what they did, who was there. She was kind of like me, only about Black Power. So she had audio cassettes of her talking with Huey Newton, letters from Mumia Abu-Jamal, like, I mean, crazy stuff that just no one has it. That's all I can tell you.
Right.
No one has it. And so one of the guys that was there was an old Black Panther named Bobby McCall. Well, Bobby McCall was Money B's dad in Digital Underground.
Oh.
And so he became my manager. He was like, "Well, who's managing your group?" I was like, "Nobody." He was like, "Let me be your manager then." So he started being my manager. Money B used to come through. I brought Del the Funky Homo Sapien through.
Yeah, I know Del.
You know, Tupac didn't really come to those meetings. But he already knew all that stuff, to be honest. He was always tripping me out because he knew all that stuff. So that's how me and Tupac became cool. You know what I'm saying? And I started, so Bobby McCall was one of the founders of a newspaper called The Commemorator. It was the Black Panther paper called The Commemorator. And so that's where I got my start as a journalist, writing there. Okay. And when I met James, I was like, "Dude, I write for the Black Panther newspaper." He's like, "For real?" He didn't even know there was a Black Panther newspaper, right? Because he's out in Boston or New York. He don't know the Bay. So we became cool, and then that's how I got to write for The Source eventually.
Oh, damn. Yeah. I didn't realize you wrote for The Source.
Mm-hmm.
What years were you writing for The Source?
92 maybe.
Okay. I was definitely reading your shit then.
Yeah. And then I started writing for rap pages, you know what I mean? Right. Which I really liked better. Because there was just like a New York bias. It wasn't James, it was other people, you know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't really give a fuck about me, you know what I'm saying? And I was never seen because I'm so far away. Right. Like they're all in New York. So, you know, I wrote a few pieces. They respected me because I came from this Panther shit, but I didn't really like, I wrote some things that I'm proud of everything I wrote for The Source, but they didn't give me the space to be dope, really. You know what I mean? Like rap pages gave me the space to be dope.
So what were your articles kind of focusing on at The Source? Was it on like?
No, I was on hip hop shit. You know what I mean? Like I was doing like record reviews, or I interviewed Del. You know what I mean? I did the first story on Del for The Source. Other shit like that, and then like you know, but Sheena Lester at Rap Pages, she gave me the room to be a better writer. So I broke like hieroglyphics. I did one of the first stories on Master P, one of the first stories on JT. You know, a lot of stuff, bro. A lot of stuff. You know.
Man, you have been.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with all these like hip hop artists that you just knew.
Yeah, it was weird, bro. It was fun though.
Talk to me about how chess came into your life.
My father taught me chess when I was 4. I love the game, but I was never, you know, I'm still not like hella sick at it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And my first rap name when I was rapping, because I love the Beastie Boys, was MC Most Ill. I was the illest, right?
Yeah.
But then when I started writing, I was like, bro, like, I remember I need another name. And I love chess. I love hip hop. I was paying attention to EPMD and Public Enemy mentioning chess in their lyrics.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you should have a name that deals with chess. You should have a name that deals with chess. And I was like, the King. And I was fucking weak. I was like, and then I was like, the Bishop. I was like, why do you like the Bishop? And the reason I like the Bishop because the Bishop hits you at an angle. Right. And I always try to think of things that other things people aren't thinking of. Right. So I could be looking at the same thing, but I'm going to talk about it in a different way. Right. Plus, I like this idea politically that like a bishop had power, but was not a politician.
Right.
I like that they had spiritual power, but they were not a politician. So that was kind of like my like vibe, you know what I mean? And so my column in the Black Panther paper was called The Bishop's Baseline. And you know what I'm saying? So
okay.
You know.
And so now you have is it like your hip hop chess stuff now? Is that a website? Like
no. I'll tell you here, bro. I'm actually shutting Hip Hop Chess Federation down because I'm getting ready to launch something all new.
Oh, awesome.
I'm getting ready to launch something all new in 2021. But I gotta, it's like a lot of people. I have a Bible near me. I could go grab it. But there's this one thing where one of the apostles is asking Jesus, like, how come he's not, tripping about, getting put on the cross and stuff. And he was like, well, I have to go away because somebody else is coming and they can't come until I go. And so I got to let Hip Hop Chess Federation go so I can bring this new shit that's going to be way harder.
All right. That's dope. And what did you meet the RZA through chess or you met him and you connected on chess?
Good question. The truth is, I met him because of hip hop chess, but before that, I was friends with Jizza.
Oh, okay.
And I met Jizza. Hold on a second. Allergies are killing your boy right now. I met Jizza years before when he was on Cold Chillin' Records. He put out a single called Come Do Me, and he was performing at this club called One Up. And I was writing for the Black Panther paper. I went to One Up because I had hookups there, and we started vibing, and we became cool. And so this was, neither one of us even knew that the other person played chess or cared about it at all.
Oh, okay. And that's the record that Pass the Bone was on, which was my jam.
Yep, exactly. Right. So me and Jizza become cool. I remember him coming out, and one time he did a show, and his manager at the time was this dude named Mel Kwan. This is a funny ass story. So Mel Kwan was Jizza's manager, and he was a big dude. Like, especially for me, bro, like I was like 130, 40 pounds at that time. Like Mel Kwan was like big, like Debo big. And me and Jizza talked, he had a show, and then he was like, yo, can you help me get to the airport? And I was like, yeah, I can help you get to the airport. But I didn't have no car. So I called DJ Steph, rest in peace, and DJ Stace, because they lived in San Francisco and I knew they had a car. And I was like, we could take Jizza to the airport. And they were like, cool. So crazily enough, on that day, it's storming crazy, like downpour.
Yeah.
So I go hook up with Stace and Steph. DJ Steph was one of the best female DJs of the Bay. She passed away not too long ago. And actually, that was painful. But and shout out to DJ Pamela Funkstress, who also passed away not too long ago. And so me and Stace and Steph, Stace and Steph go to the hotel, and we're just kind of hanging out. We're talking, they're grabbing their bags. So it's like, all right, you ready? It's like, yeah. And like, traffic is slow. You know what I mean? Like they're pressed for time. So like, all right, let's go. So Jizza, so Stace is afraid to drive. I think it was her car. And she was like, I'm afraid to drive because the front left tire is low. And I don't know if it's going to, if it's going to hold up. So you drive. I was like, I don't care. I'll drive. I'm cool. Whatever. So I get in the car. Jizza gets in the back seat. Steph gets in the back seat. Stace gets in the back seat. And Melquan's going to sit up front because he's so damn big, right?
Right.
So Melquan throws the bags in the back. The car is started, right? I'm pressing on the gas, but I have the brake on, right?
Right.
And Melquan is getting into the car. He put one foot into the car, his left foot. And he was like halfway in the car. And Jizza was like, go, man, go. So I took my foot off.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
And the back, like the frame of the car, just like blast Melquan in the back. Bah! And then I hit the brake, and then Melquan goes flying into the front door because it's open. Bah! And then he falls into the car, right? Bah! He kind of falls into the seat. And I'm like, yo, this dude's gonna beat the fuck out of me. Like, I know he's fucked up. And I just look at him, and I'm just like, I'm really sorry. And he was like, man, fucking drive. He was so mad. And I kept waiting while driving to just get punched. I completely was like, at some point, like, is he going to punch me while we're driving? Is he going to punch me when they get the bags out? And then, you know what I'm saying? So I knew Jizza from that far back. The way that I met RZA was I started HHCF in 2006. I went to go be on the Wake Up Show, and it was Carmelita, my homegirl, Sway, and Tech, my big homies. And they were like, yo, you need to, I'd put a book out called Lyrical Swords Volume 2, West Side Rebellion. Yeah, Lyrical Swords Volume 2, West Side Rebellion. And then they were like, dude, you got to meet RZA. No, it was from the first one. Yeah, Hip Hop and Politics in the Mix, Lyrical Swords Volume 1, because they were in Lyrical Swords Volume 2. So they were like, dude, you need to meet RZA. I was like, all right, cool. They were trying to hook it up. I think Tech got me on the phone with RZA. Me and RZA clicked instantly, and that was that. And then he came to town one day, and somehow, this is how crazy life is, bro. There was a woman who worked on the Chappelle Show that somehow I knew, and she knew RZA. And she sent me a message, and she goes, RZA's going to be in San Francisco. You should go meet him.
Fuck.
I don't even remember her name, bro. I feel so bad because she was so cool. And, you just kind of fall out of contact with people.
Right,
so
right.
I go, this is crazy. So, again, it's storming. I go there, and it's at this place called the Commonwealth Club. The Commonwealth Club is like an upper crust place where they have high-end discussions on politics and culture. And there's a Q&A with RZA and some lady. So when I go, it's a downpour. I'm driving in horrible weather. And they're like, RZA's not having he's not doing any press. And there's a group of press people, like 10 people. And I see this lady, and I'm like, excuse me. I was like, could you do me a favor? And she was like, sure. And I was like, RZA's here, right? She was like, yes, but he's not doing interviews. I said, no, that's fine. Hold on one second. And I pulled out my first book, and I said, hey, the girl whose name I forgot said I should reach out to you. I also talked to Sway and Tech. I'd like to interview you for my next book. This is my book. I put it out on my own press. And I said, just please go give that to him and come back to me after you handed it to him. And she said, okay. So she walks back. I'm standing around in the lobby, hella wet. And then she comes back and she's like, RZA will see you now. And the rest of the press is like, what? I was like, later, dudes. And then I just go, move the velvet rope, broski. And then I go back there, and then I'm sitting in this room by myself. It's just like, water, soda, veggie plates, whatever. And then like RZA comes in, and I stand up. He says, peace. I was like, peace, man. What's up? And I shook his hand, and I sit down. It's just like me and him. And he's like, what's up? I was like, man, he's like, this is your book? I'm like, yeah, man, this is my book. I'm working on my second one. And I can't write about hip hop and chess and not have you in it. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, okay. He was like, you know who Tom Moe is? And I was like, Tom Moe? And he was like, yeah, Tom Moe. And he's like, serious. Like, he's not playing. And I'm like, no. And he just looks like, he kind of smiles like, this guy. And he's like, Ta Mo is the guy that created the first 5 animal styles in Kung Fu. And I was like, oh. I said, you know what? I do know who Ta Mo is. Only I use his Hindu name, Bodhidharma.
Oh, shit.
I always forget that his name is Ta Mo in Chinese. You're right. And he's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? He was like, all right, this dude's real. And so we just started chopping and we stayed cool from there. You know what I'm saying? You know, and, you know, we've been cool ever since. And, you know, ridiculous memories with that dude. Ridiculous memories with Jizza, you know.
How long have you known Rizza now?
Since like 2007.
Oh, shit. Okay, a long time.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just had... Were you in that... I know Mike Realm just shot for Chess Magazine. I think you... Did you write the article?
He shot the cover of Chess Life magazine with Rizza, peace to the God, written by Adisa. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that drops in the beginning of 2021. That is the cover story for 2021 Chess Life magazine, going in depth with Rizza about stuff I've never seen him really go hard on. He's talking about his first trip to Shaolin, China, and what it was like to train with the monks. He's talking about, I mean, crazy stuff, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did martial arts become a part of your life?
Very young, because I was a young nerd. So I grew up in the burbs. A lot of black people think it's cool when you grow up in the burbs, but it's not, because motherfuckers is calling you a nigga all the time and you got to defend yourself regularly. So, you know, they're like, oh, you know, swimming pools and movie stars ass nigga. And you like, but I have to fight every week. You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, you might be in the hood, and I respect that, but I'm fighting white boys every week out here. You know what I'm saying? Because there weren't that many black families. There were like 6 black families where I lived, and we had to loke up because, you know what I mean? Someone was always popping off the N-word. Someone was all, you know what I'm saying? So,
so you're pretty confident in your fighting skills?
Nah, I'm not. I'm horribly unconfident in my fighting skills. I'm just willing to fight.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just willing.
Yeah, that is different.
Yeah. You know, I think that a lot of times one of the problems with the world is most of those that are capable of fighting are unwilling, and those that are willing, they don't want to fight. You know what I mean? Like those that are capable, rather, right? They're a capable fighter, but they don't want to fight.
Right.
I don't want to fight. I'm a mellow dude. But you know, if my life was at risk, or the life of someone who I cared about, I'd do whatever.
Sure.
So my dad put me in judo, which I sucked at, but I tried. I knew enough to get by, but I wasn't like, you know, I competed a few times, got a few ribbons, but I wasn't like, you know, ooh, this kid doing judo's sick.
Right.
But what it allowed me to do was handle kids, you know, my age that really wanted it. You know what I mean? And so that was my intro to martial arts. But then later, well, actually around the same time, when the VHS machines first came out, the first 2 movies my dad had were Aliens and Return of the Dragon. I didn't even know who Bruce Lee was.
Shit. Yeah.
And so I saw him with the nunchucks. I was like, oh my God, who is this guy?
Right.
So then I went downstairs. My dad had a lot of carpentry stuff. I found an old broomstick, sawed it off. I had a chain. This is so weird. I went to my cousin Steve's house, and he had a chain just sitting on a table. It was just a little metal chain. And for some reason, I wanted it. I was like, hey, Steve, can I have that? He was like 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? I was like 10. He was like, you want that chain? I was like, can I have it, please? He was like, yeah. I didn't even have a purpose for it. But once I saw Bruce Lee, I got some pliers and stuff. I broke the chain apart, connected it to some screws between these sticks, and I made nunchucks. I practiced and bashed myself in the face 100 times, but eventually, I got good. You know what I'm saying? I got good.
Right.
And so that was kind of like my intro to that. And then in those days, in the early 80s, there was a martial arts store in the Mission around 25th and Mission. If you remember, folks, in San Francisco, there was a martial arts store. So I was going to a school called Roger Williams Christian Academy at that time, and we all loved Bruce Lee. And I was like, yo, man, like, there's a store in the Mission that has stuff, man. We should go there. So we all saved paper route money and all that, and we went and we could buy stuff. Bro, they were selling real throwing stars to children.
Yeah, I was ordering that shit from magazines. There was one store in D.C. that every now and then my parents would take us to, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I'm going in there. I still got that throwing star somewhere. I really do. I have a throwing star that attaches to a belt. Why would you sell that to a 9-year-old? I could have killed anyone.
Dude, my brother got a hold of those ninja claws so he could climb trees.
Yeah. The 80s, bro. People don't understand.
I know.
So I really got into that type of stuff. I loved it. And it was always on the periphery. But being a nerd, I eventually read The Art of War. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I start reading. Then I read The Art of Peace, which not enough people read. Everybody needs to read The Art of Peace.
Who's that book by?
By O Sensei, the guy that created Aikido. Yeah, The Art of Peace. It's a very small book, but it's beautiful, man.
Yeah, I like beautiful. The sound of that a lot.
You know, and so I started getting into like reading like the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, and I just kind of fall into this whole thing, you know what I mean? And I just never really let go of it. So, you know, for me, hip hop, chess, and martial arts were never not connected.
Right.
They never were unconnected. They were always connected.
Yeah. So when you first heard Wu-Tang, you're like, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yes, exactly. I was like, what? 36 Chambers? What? Kung Fu? What? You know what I mean? Like it was everything. It was everything.
So when did like meditation and yoga come into practice for you?
So that comes later. I started training Jiu-Jitsu with Ralph Gracie in Mountain View. And his cousin is Rickson Gracie.
Everything you do, you like end up with like the best of.
Yeah, by the grace of God. I still don't know what that is. I feel like God keeps giving me chances, right? Like he's like, here's Tupac. Oh, you don't want to do any song. Oh, here's Ralph Gracie. You're not going to do MMA. Oh, here's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just going to keep taking the blessings and trying to figure it out. So, so I'm training in Mountain View with Ralph Gracie. BJ Penn is there. Dave Camarillo is there. Like a lot of killers. Shout out to Kurt Osiander. Shout out to Luke. You know what I'm saying? What was I going to tell you? What story was I going to tell you? Gracie's.
About your yoga? I asked about yoga.
Oh, yeah. So Rickson Gracie has this documentary called Choke that anybody can watch on YouTube, and he does this weird breathing, right, making his stomach move all crazy, and I didn't know what that was, and so I was like, it's got to be connected to yoga. So I took a class of Hatha yoga at San Jose Junior College, where my initial yoga teacher, an older white dude who was really chill, was like, a lot of people don't know that yoga in part served as a martial art, which I was like, what? Right? Because I'm a grappler. Right. So I'm like, for real? He's like, yes. And he didn't even know that I did jiu-jitsu. He's just talking in class. Then he's like, yeah, you know, whatever. He's breaking hella shit down. So I'm doing it. I still do yoga to this day.
Right.
But I never really did meditation. And so I worked at John O'Connell High School, and they got a grant from the David Lynch Foundation to teach transcendental meditation there to the students and the staff.
Okay.
So my teacher was a guy named Matthew August. Shout out to Matt August. He's a G. And he studied Kung Fu. He was from Long Island. And so he would teach me about Kung Fu and Tai Chi history, stuff that I've never seen before. But he brought books. He wasn't just talking, you know, pie in the sky type stuff. He would bring books. about how styles were developed and stuff like that. I was already doing jiu-jitsu at that point. I think I was purple belt. I was blue, and he was my meditation teacher. And then one time Russell Brand actually came and did a group meditation with like several schools at one time, and I met Russell Brand for like 3 seconds.
Of course,
but he was chill, dude.
Yeah,
I would love to interview Russell Brand.
He's a big head too.
Yeah, dude. You know what I mean? Like, so that's how I got into meditation, and then I started developing my own forms of meditation.
Oh,
like,
shit. Okay.
So for instance, when I was doing yoga, I would meditate just in silence, like a Zen kind of meditation, just silencing myself, right? But I didn't even know that was Zen meditation. I was just it was just the state that yoga put me in. Okay. So then fast forward, when I get to learning transcendental meditation, Matthew August is like, the purpose of yoga is to prepare you for meditation. And that made me understand all the times I was meditating after yoga, that was just the natural way I was supposed to be anyway.
Right. That makes sense. Yes.
Right. So then I developed my own form of meditation where, okay, so I don't even I call this heart meditation. Okay. So what you do is you lay on your back, you put your right hand, the palm of your right hand goes right on top of your belly button in the center. Okay.
Yeah.
Your left hand goes on your heart. Okay. And you lay still, you take a big breath, and you start to say your mantra. Your mantra is the word that, you use to connect with yourself. Okay.
Right.
Once you start to slow down, you will feel the pace of your heartbeat. And once you're aware of the pace of your heartbeat, you say your mantra to the pace of your heartbeat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Bro, that'll take you places. That'll take you places.
I could see that. See that.
And so nobody taught me that. That was just something that I did. And I started having amazing interpersonal experiences. To the point where I wrote 2 books on jiu-jitsu. All of those positions came from meditation. None of those things came from myself. Meaning, like, people have asked me, how come you're not writing another book on jiu-jitsu? Because meditation hasn't taught me anything about jiu-jitsu. I can't write it.
Right.
I have nothing to write. So I wrote a book called The Cloud Scroll, which you can get on a PDF online at ironhookebook.com. I'm sorry, ironhookebook.blogspot, because you know what I'm saying, blogs. And then I wrote a second one several years later called The Cloud Scroll, but I didn't publish The Cloud Scroll, not for any particular reason, but then I had a near-death experience. And after I got out of the hospital, I was just determined to publish it because I didn't want to die with it sitting in my drive.
What was the near-death experience?
I contracted a thing called I had a bacterial infection that was causing me to bleed internally, but I didn't know it. Shit. And then I was like collapsing, like fainting, right? Not realizing I was bleeding out slowly over the course of like a month or so, maybe, they think.
Yeah.
And then one day I went and I took some tests because I was fainting. And I was fainting only when I would stand still. So like, for instance, like one time I was using the restroom. I went to go wash my hands and my body just dropped like straight down.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And then as I almost hit the ground, like my body was like, stand up. And I powered up almost if I was trying to jump into the sun, and I like bashed my head on the wall. You know what I mean? I kind of like dove diagonally into the wall.
Right.
Like, so I went to the hospital, and then the guy was like, yo, I think you have a slow bleed. You know, he's like, I'll call you tomorrow. So then he called me the next morning. He was like, look, dude, you only have X amount of blood in your body, and like you're about to not have enough blood for your body to function. Like you're going to have a heart attack because your body doesn't have blood in it. And so he's like, I need you to come to the emergency right now. He's like, you're not going to wait. I'm going to have your name there, and we need to get you in order. You're like, if you don't come today, you're going to die today. That's what he told me.
Shit.
So I get in the car, I go to the hospital, I get a blood transfusion.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't work.
Oh shit.
And they're like, because I'm bleeding out inside more. So they're like, yo, like, all right, we're going to give you one more transfusion. And then if this doesn't work, like, you're dying today. Like they told me. And so I took the second blood transfusion. I started meditating. I also meditate in an Islamic form called Zikr Allah, which is like Zikir. Zikr Allah is like where you say these different words, these different Arabic words to help you achieve different states. Okay. So I went into this kind of state of Zikr, and it took me, I had the deepest spiritual experience of my life, man. Oh. And then I came out of it, and then I was completely at peace with like my death, my life, everything else. I was okay. And then a few hours later, this nurse comes in and she was like, okay, you're going to make it. They're going to work on you tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So then I fell asleep. And then the next day they put a scope down my throat into my stomach. Ooh. And they could see that I had all of these like bleeding ulcers from an infection. And they were like, oh, we can give you antibiotics for that. Right. And then they released me.
That was it?
Dude. Next thing I know, I'm at Panera eating a cheese broccoli bowl, wondering what the hell just happened to my life. You know what I mean? Fuck. And bro, I went back to work on Monday. Oh, I shouldn't have, but I did. And you know, so it was a trippy thing, dude. And so
did the antibiotics work pretty quickly?
Immediately. Yeah, oh, wow. They worked immediately. You know. But, you know, my meditation kind of like came back into my life during that time. But then like in February of this year, right before the lockdown, RZA, my G, but like I owe RZA so much, man. Don't let me start crying up in here, bro. RZA invited me to come out to Shaolin, you know what I'm saying, to go out to New York and teach chess and life strategies with him and Shaolin monk Xian Ming at a thing called Camp Tazo, which was put on by the Tazo Tea Company, where they brought young professionals who were trying to like, you know, get past creative blocks. And it was at that camp that RZA really and Xian Ming really helped me understand the importance of meditation. And I rededicated myself to meditation. I've been having like ridiculous personal understandings. Right? Wow. And so through that, like I became vegan about 6 months ago. Oh, and my life is way better. And it's just me listening to my body. Like I realized that the meditation let me listen to my body. And my body one day said, stop eating eggs. The next day it said, don't drink milk. And the next day it said, no more meat. And I don't even desire it.
Okay.
Like some people go vegan and like, man, I want a burger, right? My body doesn't desire a burger. You know what I'm saying?
How are you feeling now that you're vegan? Like what's different, like day to day?
Bro, okay, so I do vegan lifestyle, but also with intermittent fasting. Yes. And I started intermittent fasting because of my hospital visit. And that was because when you do intermittent fasting, your blood cells recover faster if you're intermittent fasting. Like there's a lot of really great benefits that you get. And so, you know, replenishing my blood and the richness of it was the main goal. But once I started eating vegan with it, man, I have just never felt better in my life. Like truly. And I've never been like, you know, I'm 50 years old, but like,
are you really? I mean,
I'm so but dude, I'm so strong. Like I'm not like pumping myself up. I'm just telling you. Yeah, for 50 years old, I'm really strong. Thank you. It's a genetic thing. But I also think because I never really drank alcohol, like I stopped drinking early.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. In high school, you stopped.
Yeah, I stopped drinking after I dropped out of high school.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or right before I got the boot from, you know what I'm saying? And so I attribute, you know, the vegan lifestyle to a lot of my health. I went to the doctor like a month ago And she was like, I took all these tests, right? So they were like, all your organ function is top tier, cholesterol is fine, high blood pressure is fine. Like, I have no problems. And so I don't believe if I ate the way I used to eat, that it would still be that truth. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, even if I was slim, I wouldn't be internally as fit.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, word. So, you know. So yeah, dude, you know, I love being vegan, but I don't have the burden of heavy meat desires.
Right.
I just don't. Okay. You know what I mean? So I know some people struggle with it, and I don't even advocate for it in like a militant way. You know what I mean? I think because I respect that everybody needs different diets at different times. When I first left the hospital, the first thing the doctor said is, eat a lot of steak. I was like, what? She was like, you need a lot of steak because you need the blood from the steak to help enrich your blood. You need that iron.
Right.
So I would cook steaks medium rare all the time. So, you know, there's people that have those kinds of deficiencies. And I know that there's, you know, vegan supplements that you can take for iron. You know what I mean? Because I had to take them to enrich myself when I got out. I get it.
Right.
But I think that people need to investigate how their body responds to different food and create their own diet based on that work. But most people don't want to do the work.
That's very true.
They just don't, because it's not fun initially, and you don't feel the benefits of it initially. You know what I'm saying? Dude, you are so sick. This vitamin piece is off the chain, bro. Like, what I don't know what I'm more jealous of, that you can do it or that you can do it while talking to somebody like it's nothing.
Man,
that's crazy. I couldn't draw that. If you gave me 10 years to draw that, I would die. Like, I would, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to draw that. You have 10 years to draw that or you're going to die. I would get killed because I would never pull that off.
It's just Spider-Man swinging in front of a Dr. Green Thumb neon.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
That is so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as you know, it's funny as you're talking, like, one of the challenges I've had, I started doing this like art while podcasting thing when COVID hit, because my podcast used to be audio only. And then when COVID hit, it kind of made me rethink everything. And so like I would get together with my friends and we'd all like jam and draw, and sometimes it'd be like, you know, the drawing was at a good place when I started the podcast, where I didn't need to turn on my mind, my art mind that intensely.
You're just open, right?
Yeah, and then like sometimes, like, hey, it's like I got to figure some shit out while we're talking, and it gets a little challenging.
Dude, I just got to say, that is highly impressive, bro. That is highly impressive.
Yeah, this is going to be a full painting when it's all done.
Oh, man. So here's a question for you.
Yes, sir, yeah.
So after my near-death experience, I wrote a book. It's called A Dead Man's Diary, the birth and death of Jason Parker. And Jason Parker was my birth name.
Oh, okay.
I changed my name to Adisa Banjoko when I was like 21. And right before when I was 20, right before my 21st birthday.
What made you choose that name?
I got it from Kilu Nyasha. I went through a book of names, you know what I mean? And I asked her to help me trying to figure one out. Okay. And Adisa is a Nigerian name that means one who makes his meaning clear. It's a very important name in Nigerian culture. And then later when I got a DNA test, my blood lineage goes to Nigeria and Cameroon, bro.
Oh, shit.
So how crazy is it that I got a name that I'm actually, you know what I mean? Like tied to, right? But then I also had some DNA from South Africa, like the Zulu area. Oh, made me feel like a G. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was a...
Did you freeze?
Granules, but it's still, it's me. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, what? So Jason Parker, right, was my birth name. And so the book is really about identity and how our identity shifts, right? Like when did Jason become the bishop? When did the bishop become Adisa? And what does that mean? And if you're ultimately the same person at the end of the day, what does any name mean?
Right.
Right. And how much do the labels that we have on us define who we are? And then if they don't define who we are, how do we really define ourselves?
Right.
Beyond what society suggests. So it's an autobiography. You know, I got some stories about me and Pac in there that I never talked about. I got stories about just a bunch of hip hop stuff, but then like, you know, dead homie stories, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like almost got killed stories. And you know, so, but my point is, my boy was saying I might try to make it like a graphic novel. He was like, dude, this would be great as a graphic novel. And I've heard people say that to me, but then one of my other big homies said you might think about doing just like an illustrated book.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that right now, given the way that the market is in publishing? Like, I don't have a lot of money, but I want to make this book.
Publishing got hit pretty well. Comic book publishing got hit pretty hard with COVID.
Yeah.
But what it did was it exploited some real deficiencies within the industry, not the medium.
Right.
So a lot of artists have turned to crowdfunding, and they're seeing incredible success being fully independent artists right now without publishers, and that's where I want to be. That's where I'm going. Is like
That's what I like. See, I like how you did that pivot right there. That's where I want to be. That's where I'm going. Right. See, that is the mindset. And I'm kind of trying to take on a similar mindset. That's really dope, man.
Yep.
That's really dope.
I think it's a really fresh time to be putting out, books, whether they're illustrated novels or if they're graphic novels or comics. I think, crowdfunding is, people are finding a way to connect with their fans and their audience directly and getting rid of that middleman that gets in the way of like, someone's
the profit voice. And the creative thing. So like, years ago, before I put Bobby Bruce and the Bronx, The Secrets of Hip Hop Chess out, and you can get it at hiphopchess.blogspot.com, or my other books on Jiu-Jitsu, The Cloud Scroll and The Iron Hook Scroll at ironhookebook.blogspot.com for free PDF. We don't take no info from you. You know what I'm saying? I got a book offer from a publisher in London. And the lady was like, yo, we want to do this hip hop and chess book with you. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, the book's almost done. So that's cool. I said, the question is, I need control over the cover art because all of their covers were trash. Yeah, and I was like, I need you to let me choose the cover art. And they were like, well, we have a new person who's going to be doing our designs. And I was like, nah, but I was like, nah. All the shit you talking about is trash. Like, those were trash covers, man. And I'm not going to say the name of the publisher because I don't want to make him feel disrespected, but no. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Getting rid of those people from the creative process.
Yeah, man. I was like, you're calling me. The only reason you know who I am is because I know what I'm doing. That's why you're calling me.
Right.
Because you know that I know what I'm doing. So I need you to trust me on this cover thing because we all say don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do. So I need you to let me make sure that this cover is what it needs to be. And she was like, oh, I don't think we could do that. And I was like, West Side. I was just out.
That was smart.
Yeah, dude.
Got to protect our stuff, man.
So I think I want to do an illustrated book. Shout out to Hannibal Taboo, by the way, because he's the guy that told me to do an illustrated book. He's he's the first black dude in the comic world that I really knew existed, and he's had an incredible career. I need to hook you guys up, like, not kidding. Okay. I was telling him about you the last time that we spoke, because I was like, yeah, you guys need to know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, link us up.
Totally. Yeah, I'll connect you, man. I'll totally connect you. So what's your diet like these days? What are you eating?
I eat pretty clean about 80% of my day. I wake up and I have like a RX bar and I hit the gym.
Yeah.
And then for lunch I've been eating pecan butter, like just just
pecans. How is that? I've never had that. I've had almond butter. I've never dude, if I had pecan butter, I may not come back. That sounds really good.
Yeah, I love that shit. That shit is so good. And no sugar in it, like just straight pecans and salt.
Dog, and, I'm in.
So I have that, and then I have berries every day with it.
Yeah.
That's usually my lunch. I drink a coconut water after the gym, and then I have an afternoon snack of dried apricots.
Dude, you're living the proper life, bro. I'm trying to live like you. What am I? Why am I even mentioning?
Well, it's going to turn. It's going to turn. Let me finish. So I have the dried apricots. I have nuts. Sometimes pistachios. Sometimes cashews. And I also have these things that my friend turned me on to called tiger nuts. Wow. They are a berry that's dried, but they're the consistency of, I mean, they're somewhere between a really hard dried fruit and a nut. They're a little bit chewy and very fibrous. They're really healthy for you. And they're naturally sweet.
Wow.
They're pretty interesting. Okay. Now, if you soak them in water, they get soft overnight. I have not messed with that yet.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So that's that. Then I go home, and for dinner, it's pretty much, I cook for us.
Right.
It's pretty much whatever I'm in the mood for or whatever we're doing that night. So, it'll be a bison burger with some roasted potatoes and vegetables.
Dude,
sometimes.
People sleep on the beauty of a bison burger. As a vegan, I can tell you, some of the best burgers I ever had were bison burgers.
I love a bison burger.
Ridiculous. The only thing that I like more than bison actually is ostrich, bro.
Yes, ostrich I've had. Elk is also very good.
I had elk steaks once many years ago.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Those are fantastic.
So, sometimes I'll do fried chicken. Sometimes I'll do pasta. And then, that's my night. And a couple, maybe 2 nights a week, I'll allow myself to have some dessert. Like, I don't believe in cutting things out entirely.
Yeah, that's smart. I have a cheat day, too. My cheat days are Fridays. And I'll just eat whatever I want on that day.
Yeah, weekends I'm a lot more lenient. I'm a lot more lenient. But yeah, that's the gist of my eating. And I have a glass of red wine at night.
Red wine, they say, is really good for you in terms of your heart and stuff like that.
That's why I do it.
Being Muslim and I mean, alcoholic was a term that I used to use. Right. I don't know if I made myself sober on my own, so I don't use the term.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm always an alcoholic. I would always say I was an alcoholic because I really haven't touched alcohol in hella years. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But I don't want to get into that that language thing. The bottom line is whatever keeps you sober and safe is what's ideal. You know what
exactly.
I'm
saying? Exactly.
That's what I think.
So that's the gist of it. But look, since you and I are going to get down again, what is it, next
soon?
Week?
Yeah, you got to come get on my show,
right?
Bro.
So let's cap it here so we don't exhaust it.
Yes,
and then we'll pick up next week on your show.
Okay, cool. So before I go, I just want to tell people to please follow me at Bishop Chronicles on Instagram.
Yes,
right. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes, Mixcloud, you know what I'm saying? Whatever works for you. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the whole Pharcyde family. Shout out to Mike Realm, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely.
One of our upcoming shows is with Charles Caruso, who wrote the book Striking Distance about Bruce Lee's life in the Bay and his big fight with Wong Jackman. Crazy conversation, you know what I'm saying? And all I'm going to tell you is the first interview of 2021 for Bishop Chronicles is unprecedented. Like, I don't want to say nothing. I'll just tell you it's in the can. I'll tell you it's been in the can. And I'll tell you it's going to be crazy. Like, absolutely.
After I hit stop, you got to tell me.
Yes, I will. You will know.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for coming on, Adisa.
Yo, appreciate you.
Hang out for a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is the Inkpulp Podcast. This is the Inkpulp Podcast. Comics, hip hop,